Alright, so in today's video, we need to talk about the Cyrene version 3 update, probably one of the most controversial beta adjustments we've seen in months. On paper, it looks like a set of buffs, higher scaling, smoother mechanics, and a few quality-of-life tweaks. But if you've been watching the community reaction online, you already know people aren't exactly celebrating. Between Reddit, Discord, and even CN players, the general vibe is the same. She's buffed, but still broken in all the wrong ways. So, let's unpack what really changed, why players are frustrated, and what this means for the future of Remembrance and the whole Chrysos Heir cycle. Permancer Terrae and Anaxa banners are coming, and you can save up to 25% on these banners at lootbar.gg. Here, I can buy 3,280 Wuneric shards for $40, while it costs $50 in-game. I just enter my UID and select a server. I received the shards right away on my account. Besides Honkai, you can also top up in Genshin. Lootbar has over 100,000 satisfied users and also supports PS5 and Xbox top-ups. I regularly use Lootbar for my giveaways, so I can personally recommend it. Use my link in the description for an additional 10% discount. So here's exactly what changed in Cyrene's V3 update, not just fluff, but the real mechanical shifts you need to know. First off, her Memo Sprite skill Minuet of Blooms and Plumes got a meaningful buff. It was 50% of max HP ice damage before, and now it's 60%, across all enemies. That extra 10 points makes her burst more legit, especially in larger enemy groups. Her Memo Sprite skill, Waltz of Flowers and Arrows, hasn't vanished entirely, but its role's been reduced. Previously, it was often tied to bonus ice hits and buff triggers. In version 3, the functionality built around it has been shifted. Cyrene now leans almost entirely on Minuet as the main loop, and the extra ice damage that once linked to Waltz has been folded into the new cyclic Story/Ode to Memo Sprite system, so Waltz functions more as legacy support than a front-and-center tool. Her true damage zone, Bloom Elysium of Beyond, got a numerical boost. The bonus hit it gives on ally damage went from 20%, 24% of that original hit. That's a 20% increase in that sub-portion of her damage. It doesn't rewrite her identity, but it helps her zone feel stronger in multi-hit comps. On her Recollection, ultimate ramp system, she now begins combat with 3 recollection points instead of starting from 0. Also, part of what her old Eidolon one used to provide, extra story stacking and perhaps earlier triggers, has been partially baked into her base kit. But here's the kicker. The new passive that grants 6 extra recollection only activates after the Memo Sprite acts. That means the first rotation still feels sluggish, unless you're running full Chrysos Heirs or a mono Remembrance team that starves her with stack support. She might still take a full cycle before her ultimate fires. Then there's her Ode to Memo Sprite skill rewrite. Before it triggered off Waltz, now it triggers off Minuet. It still grants an extra ice damage hit at 60% HP when conditions are met. It also introduces the story mechanic. After she uses her ultimate or when her Memo Sprite is summoned, she gains 1 story point. When that hits 3, she instantly triggers another Minuet and gains an extra turn. That essentially loops her kit, given good uptime. In her Eidolon tree, there are a few big swings. E1 now gives 6 recollection instead of 3 and uses the Minuet trigger. E2 starts her with 12 recollection and increases the true damage zone buff, scaling from 5% to 6% per ally, maxing at 24% instead of 20. E4 changed. Now after each Minuet use, her bounce damage multiplier for the triggered Ode stacks by 12%, up to 12 stacks. E5 got a slight nerf. The Memo Sprite talent level buff was reduced from +2 to +1 in that slot. E6 got a major rework. Instead of giving allies all-type RS Pen, now on First Ultimate, all allies get +100% action advance. The first trigger of her ode reduces enemy DEF by 20%, and on further triggers, she gives plus 20% action advance. So in sum, Minuet got stronger, the zone buff got stronger, Ode rewrites so she flows through Minuet not Waltz, starting Recollection and Eidolon boosts help early ramp, and E-nodes tilt her kit toward longer fights, bounce stacking DEF shred, rather than quick burst extremes. The first wave of comments summed it up perfectly. They buffed the numbers, not the problem. Everyone expected this patch to fix her ultimate generation, and instead we got what people are calling an Eidolon bait rework. Her Eidolon 1's faster stacking was moved partly into the base kit, which is good, but the real solution is still locked behind Eidolon 2. That's where the extra recollection gain and smoother flow actually kick in. It's the same monetization pattern we've seen before, Acheron needing her E2 for proper rotation, Firefly and Phanon getting extra actions at higher Eidolons. Players are calling it the Hoyo mentality. Make the unit clunky at 0, then fix it at E2, and people are noticing. One comment literally said, "They do address the issue by telling you to get E2 or be happy with a clunky mess." Others are just joking that Cyrene has become whale bait in pink for a character clearly inspired by Alicia, one of Hoyoverse's favorites. That's a rough reception. Now, the irony here is that Cyrene actually works fine, but only in teams that already existed. She synergizes with every Chrysos heir, Phanon, Medei, Castoriche, Anaxa, yet each partnership has its own drawback. With Vaenon, she can't keep up. His ultimate fills way faster, so her buffs come late. Medei's supposed to benefit from her cleanse, except he's literally immune to crowd control during Vendetta State, making that addition useless. Anaxa's new buff now shares attack and skill damage with all erudition characters, which accidentally makes Herta the biggest indirect winner. And Castorich? She still plays the same. Cyrene just adds some bonus ice damage and a flashier animation. The bigger concern is her future. According to leaks and developer roadmaps, there are no new Chrysos heirs planned after 3.7. That means once this era ends, Cyrene loses her only synergy niche. As one player put it, she's the premium support for premium characters, and when they fall off, so does she. It's not like Harmony Trailblazer, who will scale with any team that needs buffs. Cyrene's design locks her into a very specific group, so by 4.0 she might be the first flagship support with a built-in expiration date. Now, there's another part of this story. Collateral damage. Trailblazer, Remembrance, actually got hit with a significant nerf this same patch. Their base attack went from 150 to 160, but the damage multiplier on their basic attack was slashed from 200% to 120% for both them and their Memo Sprite. That's roughly a 40% cut. The justification seems to be balancing across all Memo Sprite pairs so that Trailblazer doesn't overshadow Cyrene or Evernight as the main ice carry. But of course, the community's immediate reaction was confusion. Why nerf an already mediocre DPS? The cleanse and 10% charge gain remain, but this change pretty much pushes the Trailblazer into a full support lane instead of a damage dealer. Another example of Hoyo tightening the numbers instead of improving the feel. If you've been scrolling Reddit, the mood is somewhere between frustration and meme copium. Players are calling this the 80s Elysiae special, a beautiful, flashy, overly complicated unit that doesn't work right until multiple patches later. Many suspect a repeat of the Phanon timeline. Release, players complain. V5 miracle rework. There's also a lot of humor. People joking that Smolreen died for this, or that Hoyoverse used their special move, never address the main issue. Some compared her to Yukong, technically good buffs but miserable to pilot, and others are treating this as an intentional experiment in forced spending, pointing out that Cyrene joins a long list of E2 locked Harmony units like Acheron and Sunday. But underneath the memes, the disappointment feels genuine. Many players saved for months expecting Elysia tier magic, and got a unit whose best quality is her animation. "They burned Elysia," one top comment said. "She deserved better." That sentiment pretty much sums it up. So where does this leave her? Right now, Cyrene V3 is a more polished but still clunky ice-based harmony support. She hits harder, 60% HP ice damage and stronger true damage zone, and her overflow mechanics are smoother. But she still can't compete with fast ramp supports like Ruan Mei or Sparkle without heavy Eidolons. She's viable in sustainless Remembrance teams. Think Castric plus Evernight plus Hyacine, but outside of that, you'll feel her slow ultimate cycle immediately. From a practical standpoint, that means she's not unplayable, just unappealing. Most meta-focused players would rather invest in Hyacine Rerun, grab E1 Tribby, or save their Stellar Jade for 4.0, because if we're honest, a support locked behind E2 is not a smart pull right before a new region launches. So, yeah, Cyrene V3 is one of those updates that looks exciting at first glance but collapses once you look under the hood. The buffs are real: better scaling, faster stacking after the first ultimate, smoother rotation. But the core issue, her painfully slow recollection gain and restrictive team lock, stays exactly the same. Whether Hoyoverse plans to fix that in version 4 or version 5 is anyone's guess, but for now, she's basically a polished version of the same problem. Anyway, that's my full breakdown of the Cyrene version 3 rework and the community's reaction. What do you guys think? Save up to 25% on the current banners at lootbar.gg. All you need is your UID and server. The link is in the description.